Every winter in northern Japan, grown men in demon masks force their way into houses where small children live, and the parents pour them a drink while their children scream. That is not a horror film. It is a heritage practice with a government file. Japan is the one country where the monsters come with paperwork, and tonight I can show you the receipts. A village that posts a cash reward for a snake that should not exist. There is a licensed hunt for a river creature that is said to drown children, and a woman in a surgical mask who in 1979 had actual police cars patrolling school routes. 11 creatures from Japanese folklore, and after each one I will show you what real people, right now, still do about them. Number 11. The door of a farmhouse slams open in the snow and a demon is standing in it. Huge, straw-coated, with a red lacquered face roaring one question into the room. Are there any crybabies here? This is the Namahage of the Oga Peninsula in Akita, and what makes it the perfect opener is that nothing about it is hidden. On New Year's Eve, local men in carved masks really do enter their neighbors' homes, stamp the snow off, and terrorize the children of the house while the parents bow, pour sake, and offer rice cakes to make the visitors leave. The children do not know the demon is the man from down the road. The screaming is real, the promises to behave are real, and by most accounts they work better than any parenting book on the market. The visitors stamp their feet, roar about laziness and crying, and let themselves be talked down slowly over food and drink like a storm negotiating its own exit. And in 2018, this practice was inscribed by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage. One of 10 masked visiting deity rituals across 8 prefectures, which means the demon that ruined your childhood evening now has an international registration number. Keep that idea of paperwork in your head because it is the thread of this whole video. Belief leaves records. My favorite documented detail, and the one that stays with me, is the briefing. Before the visit, parents quietly tell the Namahage performers exactly what each child did wrong that year, so the demon walks in already knowing. Imagine being 4, and the monster knows about the homework. At number 10, the creature waits beside a real waterfall you can visit tomorrow, and she has been waiting 400 years. Number 10. At a waterfall in Izu, golden webs hang across the railings at eye level, each one holding a spider the size of your palm directly above the drop. The falls are called Joren Falls, 25 meters of white water on the Kano River, and the story attached to them goes like this. A woodcutter sits down at the pool. A thread of silk comes looping gently around his ankle. He shifts the thread to a tree stump, and the stump is ripped from the ground and dragged under the water. That is the Joragumo, the binding bride, a spider that after 400 years can wear the shape of a beautiful woman, and in some tellings she appears at the pool as exactly that, a lovely stranger who asks the woodcutter to keep her secret. He keeps it for years. The day he finally tells someone, the story ends the way you already suspect it ends. The village response in the tale was practical. Nobody cuts wood near the falls again, and the pool below the falls was quietly understood to be bottomless, which real measurements disagree with, and which nobody local seems to find reassuring. I will file the whole story where it belongs, in the realm of things told around fires, because that is what it is, but 2 anchors hold it to the real world. The legend is still told on site, at a real, named, visitable waterfall, and the actual spider you see in those railings is the Joro spider, which carries the monster's name inside its official scientific classification. Science looked at this animal and formally named it after the story. The name went through committees, journals, and classification databases, and every one of them waved the monster through. Think about that for a second. Number 9 has no waterfall and no shrine. It has something better, a reward ledger, and the number goes up every single year. Number 9. 3,000 people are sweeping a mountainside in a line, beating the grass with sticks, hunting a snake that has never once been caught. This is the annual Tsuchinoko hunt of Higashi Shirakawa in Gifu, held every 3rd of May, and in 2017 it drew more searchers than the village has residents. The Tsuchinoko is Japan's most beloved impossible animal, a snake shaped like a beer bottle, fat in the middle, that is said to leap, to snore, and in the older stories even to speak. Sightings appear in village newsletters going back to 1988, and centuries deeper in regional records, always with the same shape and the same vanishing act. The hunt itself is a family festival now, with caps and gloves and packed lunches, and it has been held every spring for decades without a single capture, which does not appear to discourage anyone even slightly. And this is where the paperwork thread picks up again. The village posts a real cash reward for a live specimen. Started around 1 million yen in the late 80s, and it grows by exactly 10,000 yen for every year the creature stays hidden. It has passed 1.3 million yen, roughly $9,000, and it is still climbing, which might be the most honest metric of belief I have ever seen. A number that rises because nothing was found. Another town in Niigata has floated a reward of 100 million yen. Nobody has ever collected a single yen of any of it. And the village treasurer, every year, has to carry the liability forward in the books, which means somewhere in an official Gifu ledger, there is a line item for a snake that does not exist. If you want more of Japan's strange documented corners, this is a good moment to subscribe, because stories with receipts are the entire business of this channel. Number 8. What do you do when a ghost outranks the government? Because that is not a riddle, it is a chapter of Japanese history with dates attached. Sugawara no Michizane was a real scholar and statesman, born in 845 who was framed by court rivals, exiled to Kyushu, and died there in disgrace in the year 903. Then his enemies started dying. His rivals go one by one. Plague moves through the capital. Drought follows it in. And in the year 930, lightning came through the roof of the imperial palace itself and killed officials of the same court that had exiled him. The court physicians could treat burns. Nobody could treat the pattern. The court looked at all this and reached a decision I find astonishing. They gave up. Formally, on paper, the government of Japan capitulated to a dead man. Michizane's titles were restored, his crimes erased, and in 947 the state built Kitano Tenmangu Shrine in Kyoto specifically to house and calm his spirit. They promoted the ghost to a god, Tenjin, and note what happened to his name because it answers this video's title. People stopped saying Michizane. They said Tenjin-sama, the honored one, the way you speak carefully about someone who might be listening. Roughly 12,000 shrines now enshrine him, which makes the angriest ghost in Japanese history one of its most worshipped gods. And every exam season, millions of students queue at those shrines to hang small wooden prayer boards, begging Japan's most famous vengeful spirit for mercy on a mathematics test. 11 centuries of appeasement, renewed annually by teenagers. Go and stand under those boards in the wind some February. That sound is 1,100 years of not taking a chance. Number 7 is a hole in a mountain outside Kyoto, and locals will drive around the mountain rather than through it after dark. Number 7. A traffic light is holding cars at the mouth of a tunnel barely wider than one vehicle, and the drivers waiting at that red light have plenty of time to remember the stories. The Kiyotaki Tunnel outside Kyoto is real and thoroughly ordinary on paper. A narrow former railway bore from the late 1920s, now a one-way road controlled by alternating signals. Off paper, it is one of the most feared places in the country. The catalog of claims is long. A woman in white who appears in your mirror or drops onto the windshield. A length that is said to measure 444 meters, 4 being the number that sounds like death in Japanese. A rule that entering on a green light instead of waiting invites something to join you halfway through. And behind it all, talk of workers who died building the old railway, which I want to be clear about, because I looked and no verifiable record of those deaths exists. That claim belongs to the campfire, not the archive. What does exist and what earns this entry its slot is the behavior. Kyoto locals, taxi drivers included, will tell you flatly that they do not use that tunnel at night, and plenty will detour around the mountain to avoid it. The signal light gives you about 2 minutes at the mouth, alone, in the dark, to decide how rational you feel. 2 minutes is longer than you think. The tunnel does not care which way you decide, and that indifference, I suspect, is half of what keeps the stories alive. Now, I promised you monsters with paperwork, and number 6 has the best paperwork in Japan. It will cost you 220 yen. Number 6. Picture this, because it may be the strangest official document in the country. A municipal fishing license for catching a monster. Let me also lower the temperature here for a minute. Deliberately, because after execution grounds and death tunnels, this entry is the playful one, and its darkness only shows at the very end. In Tono, in Iwate, behind a temple founded in 1490, there is a green pool called Kappa, the Kappa pool. The Kappa is the river child, a small water creature with a dish of water in its skull, famous for loving cucumbers, for wrestling, and for dragging swimmers under. At the pool, the tourism office sells a genuine Kappa capture license for 220 yen, about $1.50, printed with 7 official rules, and visitors fish for the creature with bamboo rods baited with fresh cucumbers. There is a standing reward of 10 million yen, around $70,000, for a live capture. Rule 1 is my favorite thing in this entire video. The Kappa must be caught alive, and it must not be harmed. Somewhere in a town office, someone drafted, reviewed, and printed the humane handling requirements for a monster, and then presumably went home for dinner. The license fee goes to the local tourism association, the cucumbers go on the hooks, and the pool sits there, green and quiet, collecting bamboo rods and hope. But before you file the Kappa as a joke, remember what the stories were for. Kappa warnings stood beside real rivers, aimed at real children, in a country of fast water and farm ponds. The cucumber and the wrestling came later. The drowning came first. Number 5 walked out of the hills above Hiroshima in 1970, and a town office had to deal with it. Number 5. In the hills above a small Hiroshima town, a rice farmer points across a fog-filled valley at the ridge where he saw it, and half a century later, people still ask him about that afternoon. Through the early 1970s, the area around Mount Hiba produced a steady stream of reports of an ape-like figure, about 1.5 meters tall, black-furred, bristle-faced, crossing roads and watching farmers, leaving broad footprints in snow. Locals named it the Hibagon. I need to decide something out loud here, which is how much of the official response I can pass on to you, because the best sources on this one are enthusiast archives rather than newspaper scans, so I will keep only what is consistently reported. The sighting wave was real enough that the town government fielded the reports, school children were warned about the hills, and the creature became a local institution. Then, in the mid-70s, the sightings simply stopped. No body, no capture, no explanation, just an ending. And the town made the most Japanese choice available. It embraced its monster. Today, the station kiosk sells chocolate sweets called Hibagon eggs, a statue grins at visitors, and the creature that once frightened farm families now works, unpaid, in tourism. But talk to the older residents and the joke thins out fast because the people who made the original reports never withdrew them. They saw what they saw, the town wrote it down, and the mountain has kept the rest to itself for 50 years. Number 4 is the only entry on this list that people pay years in advance to meet, and the waiting list survived an actual fire. Number 4. A tatami room is stacked with hundreds of children's toys, and every one of them faces a small, empty futon. This is the Enjunoma, a guest room at the Ryokufuso Inn at Kendaichi Hot Spring in Iwate, and the toys are offerings left by adults for a resident the inn has never once put on an invoice. The Zashiki Warashi is the house child of northern Japan, a spirit said to live in the inner rooms of old houses, and the deal it offers is simple and a little sinister. See the child, and fortune follows you. Lose the child, and the house falls. At Ryokufuso, the resident spirit is said to be a samurai boy who died some 6.5 centuries ago, and this is my personal favorite entry of the 11, because its anchor is a booking system. Guests reserve that specific room years ahead, hoping for footsteps in the night, and they mail toys to the inn as thank you gifts for luck they credit to a dead child. Then came October of 2009, when the inn burned to the ground in a boiler fire. Here is the part everyone in the region will tell you. The small shrine on the grounds survived, the inn was rebuilt, and when reservations reopened in 2016, the spirit's room reportedly filled for 3 years the day the phones came on. A fire could destroy the building. It could not touch the tenant. And if you think about it from the innkeeper's side, that is a remarkable business reality, because the most valuable asset on the property is invisible, uninsurable, and answers to nobody. The residue I carry from this one is the toys. Hundreds of them, arranged by strangers, all facing the same small futon like an audience that never leaves. Number 3, ruined so many careers that the film industry built a safety procedure for her, and the procedure is still in use. Number 3. Between 2 apartment blocks in Shinjuku, a film producer in a suit is bowing to a shrine the size of a garage, holding a script under his arm, and he is not doing it for the culture. He is doing it because of what is said to happen to productions that skip this step. Oiwa is Japan's most famous, vengeful ghost. In the story, made immortal by the 1825 kabuki play Yotsuya Kaiden, she She is a devoted wife poisoned by her samurai husband, her face ruined by the toxin, her hair coming away in bloody handfuls, and she returns from death to dismantle everyone who wronged her, appearing in lanterns, in mirrors, in the faces of other women. That is theater. What is not theater is the shrine. Oiwa Inari Tamiya Shrine, standing on the site of the real historical Tamiya family home in Yotsuya, built and maintained because the family attributed their misfortunes to her. And for 2 centuries, whenever the story is staged or filmed, cast and crew have gone to pay respects before production begins, a practice fed by a long industry memory of accidents and illnesses on versions that did not bother. Actresses who play her often go personally, and interviews with kabuki actors across generations mention the visit the way athletes mention warming up, not as superstition, but as procedure. Studios have come and gone, the practice has outlived all of them, and nobody in the business seems eager to be the counterexample. There are older productions the industry still talks about, versions where the visit was skipped and the injuries and cancellations piled up, and whether you read those as coincidence or as bookkeeping depends entirely on how late at night you are reading. The residue that follows me around from this entry is the sheer professionalism of it. Somewhere in Tokyo, there are production schedules with a line item that exists because of a woman who died in a story. Number 2 is smaller than all of this. It sits in a glass case in Hokkaido, and monks keep cutting its hair. Number 2. A monk is kneeling in front of a glass case holding a pair of scissors, and inside the case a porcelain doll in a kimono waits with black hair pooled around its waist. The doll is called Okiku, and it lives at Manenji Temple in Iwamizawa, Hokkaido. The story the family told is this. In 1918, a boy bought the doll in Sapporo for his little sister, Kikuko, who adored it and died soon after, still a small child. The family kept the doll on their altar, and over the years they became convinced of 2 things: that the girl's spirit had settled in it, and that the doll's bobbed, chin-length hair was slowly growing. In 1938, when the family left Hokkaido, they brought the doll to Manenji Temple and asked the monks to look after it, and the temple has kept that promise ever since. Through war, through winters, through 90 years of visitors pressing their faces to the glass. Now, the labeling. Done properly. The growing hair is a claim, a thing the temple and generations of visitors say, and I cannot hand you a laboratory report for it. What I can hand you is the practice because it is not disputed by anyone. The monks of Manenji periodically, ceremonially trim the doll's hair, and they have done so for the better part of a century. Whatever you believe happens in that case between trimmings, real monks with real scissors keep an appointment with it. Visitors say the trimmed hair grows back toward the same length. The temple reportedly keeps what it cuts. Before I show you number 1, tap the like button for me, would you? This one is a test format for the channel, and that button is honestly how you vote for more of it. Now, 1979 and the Woman in the Mask. Number 1. In 1979, police cars in Japanese cities crawled at walking pace behind lines of schoolchildren, escorting them home from school in groups because of a woman who does not exist. This is the Kuchisake Onna, the slit-mouthed woman, and she is the only entry in this video with a genuine, dated, documented national panic to her name. The legend, labeled as such, goes like this. A beautiful woman in a surgical mask stops a child on the walk home and asks, "Am I beautiful?" Then the mask comes down. The mouth is cut ear to ear. She asks again. Yes is wrong. No is wrong. Survivors in the schoolyard telling of it escape with sideways answers. You look about average, that buy time to run. Now watch the legend cross into the record because this is the payoff of the whole video. In December of 1978, near Yaotsu in Gifu, a sighting report of exactly such a figure made a local paper, 1 column, 1 town. Within 6 months, the story had crossed the entire country, moving at the speed of cram school gossip, and the adult world began responding as if it were true. Teachers organized group walking with rosters and routes. Parents formed patrols and walked the school perimeters at closing time. Police in cities as far apart as Fukushima and Kanagawa dispatched units to search for the woman. In Himeji, a 25-year-old was actually arrested carrying a knife while imitating her. And then the panic ended in the most perfect way imaginable. Summer vacation started, the children stopped walking to school, and the woman in the mask simply ran out of audience. No hoaxer was unmasked. No origin was ever settled. The police files closed on a person who had never been there, and those files are the point. The Namahage has a heritage number, the Tsuchinoko has a ledger, the Kappa has a license, and the slit-mouthed woman has incident reports. That is a complete paper trail, from ritual to reward to arrest record, for a world that officially does not exist. The story has resurfaced in every decade since, in films and games and schoolyards, and every ordinary mask on every ordinary train has kept her plausible for 50 years. If you grew up in Japan, some part of you still checks the eyes above the mask, and I suspect that part never fully clocks out. Making this video changed how I think about belief. I kept expecting to find a line where the folklore ends and modern Japan begins, and the line is not there. What I found instead was infrastructure. Rewards with interest, licenses with rules, shrines with maintenance budgets, rituals with heritage numbers, escort rosters with dates. A culture does not build infrastructure for things it has entirely stopped believing in, and that is the quiet revelation sitting under all 11 entries. The monsters survive because people keep doing things about them, and every small act of doing keeps the door open one more year, which makes me wonder about the rest of us. What do you still do without quite admitting it, just in case? Tell me below, and I promise not to judge. Watch the eyes above the masks out there.